Hey yo, it's your boy Los. Let's get it.
I won't stop. Where the brakes at? I give him that ditty bop. Like take that, take that, take that, take that. I'ma put in work. I'ma do that ASAP. Throw my faith in rap. But it say don't say that, huh? What I'ma turn down for? I feel like Shaq in 9-4. Breaking glass in that backboard. I like Kobe and Toronto, huh? Dropping 81. Yo, I dropped the 88. Ricky Bobby, shake and bake. Sleeping on it, should've stayed awake, huh? Everybody make mistakes like VJs. Tryna say my name, it's Mineo. Say it with me, Mineo. Okay, great. 2 forks high, raise the stakes. Risk it all, I take the hate. This the winning team, get the Gatorade. My guy good, but he's not safe, nah. They try to shut us down and it ain't gon' slide. Only thing I fear is God and he on my side. That's the confidence I got, cause he got me. That's why I really feel like you can't stop me. That's all you got. Come on with it. That's all you got. You can't stop me.
Alright, what's up, y'all? Okay, so as you can see, we're talking about Andy Mineo's latest album called Work in Progress. Correction. Well, I don't know what correction. I don't know what this is. Be straight with you, and that's not a diss towards Andy, anything like that. It's labeled an album. It was on iTunes in the album section, but it comes across to me more of a, I don't know what it is actually, because it's the album. How I'm gonna say album though, but it starts off where there's an introduction. This guy who runs. I'm assuming it's a podcast that Andy Mineo has. I'm not really big on podcasts. Don't judge me about that. So I don't know. But I'm assuming it's a podcast Andy Mineo has, and this individual, the guy who's leading the interviews on this album, I think he runs the podcast for Andy, and so he basically comes in and says that these album songs you're about to hear are a bunch of songs that for whatever reason Andy did not drop before, and so now we're about to drop them now, right? And so the first song comes in and it was pretty dope, man. It was basically just talking about how, about life being hard, and how he was, one thing I thought was really, really dope was he was at the hospital, I think getting like a routine check or something like that, getting something done. No, he was helping at the hospital that he normally helps out at or something like that, and he ran into a young lady, and she was getting a sonogram done, and basically she made mention how her life was hard, it was rough, and his music helped her get through. And her and her husband about to have their first child, and it was just a blessing, man. It was beautiful to hear that how the Lord would use hip-hop, Christian hip-hop at that, to be encouragement to people who aren't believers, and actually they weren't believers at the time, according to the song. So it's a beautiful thing, man, how the Lord would use his people through Christian music or through rap music to encourage people and draw them in. That's always beautiful for me to hear. I always love that. He did make a reference though that I didn't really catch, and maybe it's because I had never really heard him say anything about it, but he said he might have lost some fans because he refused to be basically a woke quiet white person or something like that. I've never heard any with the whole fight the power type speech in his rhymes. Not saying he hasn't, not saying that he can't. I've never heard him spit like that, where he was bashing in a sense the white man or whatever for how they treated blacks and so on and so forth. I've never heard that. Not that he has to. I just never heard that before, and so that was shocking to hear. Yeah, he's probably gonna lose some fans for that. But yeah, the album as a whole, and I'm not gonna lie, I was confused when I first heard the album because of the fact that it's different. So the intro, like I said, was the guy talking, then it was a song, then the very next quote unquote, so track 3 we'll say is another podcast and a song, then podcast and song and podcast and song. So it's like there was always a podcast in between, and they're just talking. There's only like maybe a minute or two of conversation before the song starts, for the next song starts. And it's funny, at first, like I said, I couldn't really grasp the concept as to what this was, what he was doing, what was this all about. But the more I heard the album as a whole, the more I was like, yo, this is kind of dope. You know what I'm saying? Because I like the fact that I'm a big fan of knowledge, and I love to hear where the MC's head was at when they wrote this or that song, and I loved hearing where his mind was at when he was writing this, or where his thought process was. It is a pretty gloomy album, not gonna lie to you, and I say gloomy on the level of he talks about he needing counseling and therapy and so on and so forth. One thing I think, like most MCs, that the pen and pad is his therapy. A lot of ways is his therapy. He gets to write stuff down and get it off his chest, and hopefully move forward. And so I think that would be the same with this here. I was really I liked that. I liked the album, even in its gloominess. He didn't talk about like suicide or wanting to commit suicide, but just talk about depression, how he was depressed, and how things weren't necessarily going well. A few songs that I really enjoyed. One was the one about country music. I was half asleep, just got off work when I heard that one the other night, and I like that. It woke me up, man. For basically talking about when he was in high school, I think high school, he met a young lady and she was bumping some music and said that she liked everything. I can't remember if she said that if she said she didn't like country music, so he said he didn't like country music, but yet he had never really heard country music, and so for the sake of her, he's like, he didn't like country music. But then you got to hear some, and it's like, oh wait, I've been saying for this whole time I don't like country music, yet not really hearing country music, but now this is pretty dope. And so basically the song was basically don't dog something until you get a chance to experience it. Second verse, actually, he was told he could date anybody he wanted, just don't date a black girl. He kind of grew up thinking that black girls were terrible or bad or whatnot. And I believe the Lord, definitely changed that since then. But yeah, it was just a great song, great reminder of, not jumping the gun on things just because things might not be your cup of tea at the moment. I liked it. I thought it was a dope song. Another song he did, I think it's called Another One or something like that. But basically, it's one thing. He made a great point, man. In the podcast right before this song here, I think it's called Another One. He makes mention about before he got married, he told his people, "Yo, I'm about to get married," and he said only one of his friends was like, "Yo, praise God, basically it's gonna be dope." All his friends was like, "Nah, homie, don't do that." And I can relate to that because I was at Sho Baraka's house one time, right after my wife and I got married. We was all hanging out. There was a bunch of us there, a bunch of good cats too. And I had said, I said the exact same thing. I said, and a bunch of people, everybody that was married, well, not everybody, a lot of people that was married. And I remember saying the exact same thing. I said, hey, can you? I said, I'm always hearing negative things about being married. Can I hear something positive? Can y'all tell me something positive about being married? And it was beautiful, man, how everybody just kind of jumped in on, and everybody just kind of chimed in on the beauty of marriage and the beauty of honoring the Lord in your marriage. And it was just beautiful to hear, man. It was just awesome to hear Sho and his wife go back and forth about marriage and what they loved, what they didn't love about marriage. And even what was beautiful, though, was even though, of course, there's some highs and some lows, of course. And even Andy mentions the fact that he's not looking forward to it, but they haven't experienced that moment that everybody talked about. Of course, they've had the highs and lows because of the relationship, but they haven't had that crazy stuff that everyone kind of warned him about. And it's the same thing like with Sho and his wife. They were like, pretty much, yeah, we've had our moments, you know what I'm saying, and we've had some rough ones, but none of them have been so bad to the point where they thought it wasn't going to work. You know what I'm saying? And so it was just beautiful, man, to be around a bunch of believers and hear that and the encouragement. And to this day, honestly, that's still a beautiful thing that my wife and I we talk about that day, and we talk about moments like that where many people in our marriage, in our midst of our marriage, was like, "Yo, basically, don't do it." You know what I'm saying? But the Lord was still glorified, and almost 10 years later, we still at it. He did 2 songs, pretty much about that. One called "Death to Us Part," basically just saying I ain't going nowhere, and I love that. I love that he took that approach, and then she even on the podcast talking about how unique and crazy he is, talking about his outfit. I rock with you, homie. It was just dope. It was a dope album, just very unique though, very very different, very I would say if you're coming to this with the mindset of the Andy Mineo from Heroes for Sale or anything like that, don't buy this. If that's what you're looking for, because you're not going to get that. This is more of a transparency, I would say, kind of album. As song says, work in progress, and so most things that are in work in progress, I'm thinking about a road right now. When a road is being either it's already laid, but I said there's bumps in it. They gotta tear down a lot of the road, and it looks ugly. You know what I'm saying? It's not an attractive sight, and so they have to dismantle a lot of things and then pave it over and make it look cute. But it takes a minute for that. And so I get the impression this album here was pretty much, let me just put me out there, you know. And we made some line that I didn't think was necessary. I get it, and I understand it, but I didn't think it was necessary to put out there. Basically saying that I've been holding my middle finger up for so long, my arm getting tired. I just didn't like that. Then that doesn't take away, in my opinion, it doesn't take away from him or the album. I just didn't think that was appropriate. I think it was necessary. But other than that, man, I think this is a dope album. It's a very creative album. I love the conversations that he had with his boys. There's one conversation that I'm probably gonna try to find it. You might see the clip in a minute. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Hold on. Well, obviously I can't find it because you see, back to me. Basically, one of the interviews goes, one of the podcasts are talking about how hip hop became more commercial. And I don't know who it was, but the guy was basically, it was like, he wants all the smoke. He's trying to start everybody up. But basically he's talking about how Questlove made mention about how Biggie, Diddy, and all of them is what brought hip hop to the commercial aspect of with all the dancing and so on and so forth. I wanted him to finish what he was trying to say. He kept trying to explain what Questlove had said, what Questlove meant, but they was joking around so much that he didn't get a chance to get it out, and then they cut the interview short, cut the interview off, and then went to the next song. And I was mad about it because I really wanted to hear that, and I just went looking for it. I can't even find the interview or the conversation of Questlove even saying that, so I'm not sure where he heard it from, but I thought it would have been dope to hear that, you know what I'm saying? I thought it would have been dope to have heard that, just been dope. But overall, man, I think it was a dope album. I was impressed. I'm always impressed with Andy's style. I think Andy's a dope MC. Not gonna front, not gonna lie. I am more of a fan of C-Light. I love it's beautiful. Andy has a beautiful style about him. Oh. One song, I think it's to his wife. He was singing. Did a joke. I think it's Death to Us part. He was singing on that song there. And I forgot Andy could sing, yo. I forgot when he first came in on the scene. He was just he was just the chorus guy. He would people would pretty much hire him just to do the chorus for their songs and everything. Yeah, and so it was all he did. Like I didn't know he could spit bars for a long time, and then he started spitting bars and was killing it. Like, yo, this dude is dope. And so when him singing on that song, I think it was Death to His Part. He reminded me of how dope of a singer he is, and it was dope. But I'm a fan of his style and his creativity, but I love it more when he uses his style and creativity to boast on the Lord. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't do it at all, but he doesn't do it as much as I would prefer him to do it. But overall, man, I think it was a good album, man. It really was. It was, like I said, it was gloomy-ish. It wasn't. It definitely is not the end that you would expect it to hear. It definitely wasn't. Another thing. It was, and this has been an argument not just with this album here, but just Andy. When Andy first came out, right? I remember when Heroes for Sale dropped. One interviewer asked him pretty much, the production wasn't what we expected, right? Because we just expected for whatever reason. I can't remember what brought us to this impression. Maybe just because of the way his style was and how he was with all of his features and everything. He hasn't really had a hip hop sounding album. Production-wise, he hasn't had he's from the East Coast, from New York, I think Uptown, but he hasn't had a legit East Coast swing kind of album. So he hasn't had that yet, and I think that's important. I think he needs to have that. I don't know. I've personally been waiting for an Andy album that complemented that East Coast hip hop scene. And he hasn't given us that yet, at least not that I've heard. And so I'm disappointed in that. And not that I was expecting it from this one here, but just in general, I'm disappointed. I think he has that potential. I think he owes it to the fans to do that. But yeah, production was cool. And It was alright. You know, production was alright. But it's like I said about the homie T Barlow. You know, I think a dope MC, a dope lyricist can, and yes, Barlow is a dope lyricist as far as I'm concerned, but a dope lyricist can make a mediocre beat dope, and I think that he did it on this album here because the production on this album wasn't good. Well, not that it wasn't good, it just wasn't dope. But it was the moment that Andy started spitting over the beats made you say, "Ooh, all right, cool, I can rock with it." Stays in my head. The song, very last song, was it Family Photo? It's a beautiful. It's a remake. Just a beautiful song, man. I loved it on the actual album, and I loved it on this one here. I think he did a dope job with that song. Man, I pray for his father. I really do. I hope things are good now. One thing, and I'm trying to. I think Andy's mom passed away a year or so last year. I think it was right after was it Neverland or Arrow? I think it was Arrow, right before Arrow, I believe. And I have yet to hear him rap about. Not saying he hasn't. I just haven't heard him rap about losing his mom yet. I wonder if that's going to happen. Not that it has to. I'm just curious. He's a very transparent kind of guy, and so I'm just wondering, is he going to ever give us a 16 talking about losing his mom? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But overall, I think it's a good album. Definitely not the end that you would expect or probably look forward to, but I think it was a good album. No feature. Well, that's a lie. There's 2 features. I don't know who they are, but knowing that one guy almost sounded like Andre 3000 at first, I was like, "Ooh, he got Dre." No, the voice sounded like Andre. The style was definitely not Andre, but the voice made me think about Andre. But yeah, overall, man, it was a good album. Man. It was a dope album for real. It was dope for what he needed to do. He needed to get that off his chest, and I think I would say that his next actual album is going to be phenomenal. And this here made me want to go download the podcast and bump, hear what they're talking about. But yeah, dope album though, for real. Be encouraged. Go get it. Grace.